Well, I think I would start by saying congratulations, obviously, to our women's hockey team and Mark Johnson. I haven't had a chance to meet them yet or see a game, but I wish I had, and I will in the future. But obviously, congratulations to them on winning the national title this weekend. Good luck to the men's basketball team. I think they're headed to Oregon as we speak, maybe. So a lot going on, I think there's this other thing that starts up on Saturday as well. And so spring ball kind of starts here on Saturday. What I kind of say, it really kind of starts today for us. I know it doesn't, but Saturday starts spring ball. So for us, it kind of starts this phase 3 of what we do. Phase 1 was kind of training. We didn't do a whole lot of football in that first phase of everything we were doing. 7 weeks, wanted to just give them to Coach Brady. Hey, this is a time for you guys to train, get bigger, get faster, get stronger. Focus on those things. A lot of that health comes from how you train and getting your body right, even going into spring football. And then we went into what we called phase 2, where we started to add that 2 hours of football. A little bit of stuff on the field, some walkthrough stuff, some meeting stuff, maximizing that 2-hour window where, you have an opportunity to, do more football with your guys. They still trained as well, but kind of getting them shifting their mindset into, hey, let's start to do a little bit more football. In those first 6 or 7 weeks, I tried not to do much of any football. It was more training and specific reasons for that. And then kind of today starts that phase 3 with spring practice starting on Saturday. Now we're maximizing all the opportunities we have to do much more football. We'll still train. Obviously, we trained this morning. We'll be on the field for more walkthroughs and things tomorrow with meetings as well. And then practice starts on Saturday. So we'd like to kind of incrementally increase the football stuff for these guys, because as we get to Saturday, I want them, wanting more and more and more, as opposed to the last few weeks where all of a sudden you're doing as much football as you can. All of a sudden you get to spring ball and they're like almost wore out. Like, okay, how many days with this do we have? So the idea is, okay, we have 34 days to do 15 practices. We put one on a Saturday for a reason, to start the week out, to give us some more time that week prior to the, those few days prior to the Saturday practice, to get a little bit more into the football side of things. So when Saturday comes, things look a lot faster, a lot crisper, even though it's really our first opportunity to be out there. And for me, it kind of starts to feel like that Christmas morning is starting to come, where we've done a lot of different things, got to know each other in a lot of different ways, did some walk-through stuff, did some jog-through stuff, threw some balls, but you haven't really done it together. And so excited for Saturday to kind of be that first time where, we get a better glimpse of ourselves and who we are. And I mean that in ways that we've developed relationships with these guys, and we've started to formulate, a relationship. But, things are a little bit different when football adds to. And so I've told them, however you have known me or known some of these guys, there's another kind of level of intensity of which we do things. And that'll be seen a little bit more as Saturday as we continue to move forward. So it's exciting. I don't want to wish away the week to get to Saturday, but no, it's definitely something that we'll be here soon and can't wait for.
Mike's on each side. Jeff.
Luke, one of the videos we saw on social media was you talking to the players someday about fourth quarter of games, and I think the numbers you threw at them were 1-4 in the fourth quarter last year. Why did you send that message at this time of the year, and were you planting a seed for the type of team you want to have them be in 23?
Yeah, I think that the more that you see, again, parity in football and things like that, you've got to win the moments. And, I was just trying to look at the things that, okay, what are the glaring things and maybe where we didn't succeed last year. Not pointing fingers at anything other than saying, okay, the history of what I know, when it comes down to it, if you're going to fight and scratch and claw and you're going to grind things out and you're going to be, a tougher team, then you got to win the game in the fourth quarter. And how you perform in that fourth quarter is, going to be critical to what we do. And I know as we kind of got rolling, what we did even at Cincinnati, we kind of tried to study the fourth quarter and how successful were we in those situations. And, I think that's where we kind of got our edge. And, I think maybe again, looking at the past is where I think maybe Wisconsin had always had an edge. You get to the fourth quarter, physical, grind it out, win those games that you got to win. And that's probably the biggest difference in the last few years. Is last year we're 1-4 in the fourth quarter. And that's something that's glaring at me. And I think it puts an emphasis on everything that we do, whether it's the off-season program, how you finish is really key. These guys haven't heard me say it yet, but it's not about how you start. Yes, we got to start, but it's all about how you finish. And if you're playing your best ball at the end of the year, you got a chance to be really successful. And there's many different ways of playing your best ball at the end of the year, playing your best ball at the end of a game. So a lot of those things are about how you finish, and we'll put a huge, huge emphasis. That's what, the winter has been about. And as we get into spring, we'll have to find ways to kind of put ourselves in these situations and say, okay, this is the fourth quarter, this is the last drive, and how do we fare?
Raul?
Luke, I don't know if it's maybe an imprinting kind of a mindset or kind of fully installing your scheme, but just traditionally, what have been your one or two top goals that you want to walk away at the end of the spring knowing you have kind of checked off?
Well, we don't have goals. I tell you that we'll have one goal. We won't talk about it. It'll be play for championships. So that's it. We'll have objectives, and every group will have objectives for what they got to, be able to evaluate through each week of spring. Offensively, we'll have objectives, defensively, and then team-wise. And I kind of hit them guys last night. I think the number one most important thing for us is toughness, and that's mental, physical, and emotional toughness to be able to handle those things, to be able to push ourselves. These 34 days, it's a mental toughness that we've got to figure out if we've got. And, everybody wants to play when the ball goes down, but how you do things on those days where you don't have practice, how you do those things on days where it's practice 6 or 7. So I think the number one, toughness, we got to togetherness. I think that we got to find a way to make sure we can come together. And there's many different ways of doing that. That's what a lot of our winter conditioning is about. It's a lot of what our weight program is about competing and doing things together and finding ways to that iron sharpens iron to battle with each other, but get the best out of each other. So I think the togetherness is going to be really, really, really critical. And I think speed. I told them last night that those three things, and people were like, probably looked at me like, I told them, well, Coach Brady worked on the speed. No, that's not the speed I'm talking about. I'm talking about the speed of how you play. When you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, you play a lot faster. It's not a coincidence that say, oh, that's a really fast football team. Well, and then they go to the combine and they're not all running 4.4s or 4.5s, and it's like, well, hold on, I thought they were faster than that. Well, when guys are confident in what they're doing, when they believe in the people that are around them, they know the what's and the whys, they play really fast. So we got to work on our toughness. We got to make sure we're together, and then we got to play with speed.
Cool.
Luke, with all the changes that are happening schematically with this team, just how much prep goes into just getting these guys ready for how you guys as a coaching staff want them to practice versus maybe what they're used to?
Where have you been? What schemes? How do you know we're not doing the same things? Is there something schematically we haven't practiced yet? So you're assuming that we're going to change schematically, right?
I assume Phil Longo's not changing what he does.
Okay, well,
entirely.
we may be a little bit different schematically in some of the things that we do, and I think that's where I know the coaches have worried. Like, we need more time. I need, like 5-6 weeks ago, we need media. I'm like, we've got time. If we can't teach them in our amount of time that we're allotted, even the time that we're going to give you after those 6-7 weeks of training, then maybe we're doing too much. So we gotta be great teachers, and it's not about how much time it takes to teach these guys. It's like, how specific can we do? How much can we break it down? And how good teachers are we? It's difficult. Those first couple of days, the tempo, the speeds of how you do things is what I'm talking about is so critical. And it's a process. I think there's a kind of an evolution to doing it. But that phase 2 is where I think and I hope and believe in how we've done things in the past gives us a really good opportunity that these guys were really fresh. You gave them this phase 2 where it was 2-3 weeks where we started implementing and adding all the football that we could, even as much as going on the field and looking like you're going to practice and then breaking just to get them in the tempo to how you do things, gives them a greater opportunity of understanding the what's and the whys. It also, by not giving them too much, makes the coaches have to shrink down what it is they do. In order for us to evaluate in the spring, you can't give them everything. You got to be able to evaluate these guys while they play fast and aggressive without giving them too much. So I think that's on our shoulders as much as anything, is the balance, to be able to give them what we believe that they can handle so that they can play fast and we can evaluate them.
Seamus?
Yeah, Luke, what's been the response from the players as a whole to the new coaching staff, and how is it brand new coaching staff kind of meshed together?
Well, it's hard to really understand what the response to the new staff. Like, you could sit with a guy at dinner, and I'm not sure they're going to just divide. Like, Coach, I think that strength guy's a pain in the rear. I mean, they're not going to dive into it and tell you. Again, you read body language, you read demeanors, you read the attitudes. They've been very open-minded. I think they've given us every opportunity to earn their trust, buy into the things that we've asked them to do. So I would say, obviously, without true any pressure situations, it's been a really good mesh so far. You don't find out what you got and what kind of relationship you have until you have some of those real adverse situations. So it's always a process of us continuing to kind of develop those kinds of things. So a lot of it's still the ongoing and the process to what we do. But I think the coaching staff is the unique one as well. We haven't been, a lot of us, I mean, there's a bunch of us that, obviously we had been together at some point in time in either my career or their careers, that we got a better understanding of how guys handle those tough, difficult, adverse situations. There's some guys like Coach Longo and maybe some more of the guys in the offense that we maybe haven't been through some of those situations. So again, it's tough to tell. Everything's like a honeymoon right now, right? I mean, there's no real overstressing situations. There's recruiting, there's this, there's that, but I think and like to believe that as we get to know each other, we'll be able to handle these most difficult situations. And we'll see some more of that in spring because it'll be very competitive, and you'll get the competitive juices, and that iron sharpens irons, our coaches as well. So we'll make each other better. But all in all, we've got to have the number one most important thing is the team in mind and our ability to mesh together. We're the example to these guys in this locker room and on that football field. As me as a coach and every one of those coaches as how we handle things together as much as anything.
Zach.
Luke, how have you seen with Tanner Mordecai? How have you seen him integrate himself into this program and maybe try and take on a leadership role as potential starting?
I don't like to specifically say on a bunch of different guys. Obviously, Tanner's one that people talk about because obviously the quarterback position is still the most unique position. But I could say him as well as a lot of others. I have not sensed any of the things that I worry about just yet. And I think that, coming in, guys with a lot of different backgrounds, like there was 13 of those newer guys, that in my mind is not, okay, this is unique. How these guys mesh together with the core nucleus of what we have here, the culture to what it is that has been here, not going to change realities, and how those guys kind of grasp it. Tanner in particular, knocking on wood, he's done a phenomenal job. He has been everything that I would hope for, meaning in the sense that he came in, kind of kept his mouth shut, went to work, proved a lot of things, I think, not just to me and the coaches, but to the players from, what we do in the morning, some of that mat drill stuff that might not be real conducive to quarterbacks at times, tug of wars and rope fights where I tell the strength coach, hey, let's try not to put the quarterbacks in there. It's okay if the offensive lineman comes up and his hands are shredded, but it might not be as well for a quarterback. That just, it's kind of part of the deal, but they jump in there and they've done, him in particular has been a great example. I think he's embraced the unique cultures and the guys in that locker room, and hasn't walked in and, expected to be handed anything. He's just done it in a really humble way, with an incredible work ethic.
Jesse.
Luke, there's obviously a lot of excitement all the way around this program right now, but specifically with your offensive players, do you sense a level of enthusiasm and intrigue about what they're going to be doing with this offense, given that it's perhaps a bit of a departure from what they've experienced before?
Yeah, I think everybody likes things that are new too, right? I mean, let's be honest. And sometimes as a coach, you got to say, okay, now we all like new things, but we also want the consistency to how you do things. So I think there is a lot of intrigue. I think in particular the wideouts and guys are, excited. Maybe, hey, there's more of them on the field, right? If there's 3 of them on the field when there was, maybe only 2 of them in the past, if, there was only 1 of them at times, they all like it when there's more opportunities for them, whether it's to be on the field, whether it's to actually have the ball in their hands. That's what they enjoy. And so I think there is an excitement in that, but there's also, some stress to it as well, like learning a new system, asking them to do some things maybe that are a little bit, hey, I want you to lose weight. I want you to be smaller. I want you to be faster. I want you to be quicker. There's things that have been, I think put on their shoulders too that maybe is different than what they had done in the past. So I think all in all that has given a great attitude. I think that's where some of the questions like, well, how's the coach? How do the players they're excited about some things that are different. They're excited about, maybe the opportunities, in particular the athletes and the wideouts. So there's been a great attitude. Like I said, there's the challenges as we get rolling now, and all of a sudden you start distributing the ball, and maybe it's not as much as they wanted. So we know there's a balance to it, but there's definitely you can sense and see and feel the energy from everybody, and that's what I've been most impressed with the whole crew, whether it's the wideouts in particular, even the offensive line that is asked to do some things a little bit different, and their spacing might be a little bit different. So we just got to continue to keep that same excitement and energy, as you grind through this 34 days.
Jake.
Luke, with coming up with spring ball, are you foreseeing any players right now that may not be full go at the start of spring practices? And maybe a second part to this is, when you've had maybe prior at Cincinnati when injuries have mounted up during practices, how have you had to alter practice schedules at all?
Yeah, it's the difficult thing in spring, and I think that's why maybe some people like to do it earlier. I like to do it later. I want to hope to build up guys' bodies, get them healthy from the season, and give them an opportunity to get back on the field. As we start, you'll see there'll be guys that'll probably be out for the entire spring. I mean, I think some of the ACL guys we won't push. Some of the hip guys we won't push. I'm not going to give names and stuff right now. Actually, I probably couldn't list them because there's still some, we'll see some, into 2 weeks. What you might see a little bit more of are some guys in maybe red jerseys. So, take Blaylock for one. He'll be a guy that'll be out there in a red jersey, which means non-contact. Now, we all know how that is. It just, hey, we're trying to remind him, remind everybody else, we want you to be able to practice. We want you to be able to go full go, but we don't want you in the contact situations. We still want you in team so that you can learn and play beside the guys, but then we don't want you going fitting up in there and putting yourself in some of those adverse situations. So I think we might see a little bit more of that of guys that's more so on the perimeter. Why is he in a red jersey? Is he special? Is he a quarterback? No, he's not. He just isn't. He's full go, but he's not contact. So we try to keep him avoiding some of those situations. You can't do that up front, just in case you're wondering. So they won't see any O lineman or D lineman ever in a non-contact jersey. Those guys, it's a different world. So if you haven't lived that world, you don't know what I mean. But no matter whether you're in full go, whether you're in spiders, whether you're just in helmets, it's pretty much contact up front. But we want those guys to be able to practice. We want them to be able to use them. There'll be some guys maybe that will just be 7-on-7s, where there's absolutely no contact. But we're going to push them to get them out there to be around, to be a part of it, because that's how you develop that whole team.
Steve.
Earlier in this conference, you talked about wanting to improve your toughness. How do you go about what specifically can you do this spring to become a tougher team in the fall, aside from obviously the hours spent in the weight room and stuff like that? But how do you become mentally tougher to do those fourth quarter?
Well, people would think, you put them on the goal line and you do. No, that's not what we're talking about. They're tough in those ways. The toughness things are coming in every single day. The toughness things are when you go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, basically you're going to grind. And the whole idea about what's grind, like, is grind a negative thing, is a positive thing? To me, grind is when the fun and work come together. And so we're going to challenge them, and that's what I've said. I have tried to keep you away from football for those beginning parts, give you a little bit of football in that phase 2, and now challenge you to see if you have a passion for this game. Are you tough enough mentally to come in every day with the right attitude? Everybody wants to play. When the ball goes down, it's not difficult, right? I mean, your juices, your energy starts to go, and guys play. That's the nature of the guys that we've got here. The challenge is on those other days. Can you come in and can you actually have the mindset? Can you work at it? Can you do the walkthroughs? That's where I think the toughness comes in. On day 1, day 2, day 3, even day 10, it's not that difficult. When you get to day 24, when you get to day 25, are you still challenging yourself to grow mentally? Are you still challenging yourself to grow even with the workouts on the off day? So there's a toughness beside this thing that is far different, I think, mentally than just putting the ball down and playing. Yes, we'll do our inside. Yes, we're not going to lose what it is that they've had here, the toughness things of playing physical football. But I think it's the challenge on all the other things, the challenges of the everyday, of the attitude that you got to have in order to be successful in this game. Because if you're going to play your best ball at the end of the game, or you're going to play your best ball at the end of the year, you better be mentally tough, because it is a long year, it's a long season, and you got to be able to, continue to push through it.
Jeff.
Look, when we talked to Tressel earlier this year, he talked about your old league providing different looks and challenges for the defensive coaches. That you might see a team that did one thing one week and then something completely different the next. That 3-3-5 in general, if you've got safeties who can play in the back end or come down and be a linebacker, does that give you more flexibility where you don't have to have as many change-ups if you're playing a team that's going to try to run it down your throat or spread you out and throw it a lot?
I do. I mean, I think that there's some of the, the multiplicity to what it is that we want to be able to do. It still comes down to getting your best 11 players on the football field. I don't if there's anything I learned at a very young age in coaching, don't overcomplicate it. Find a way, and in particular on defense, to get your best 11 tacklers on the football field. And so I'm not going to let scheme override it. Like, okay, we want to be a 3-3-5. No, if our best 11 players are with 2 outside linebackers and they're on the line of scrimmage, then we'd be crazy not to play with 2 outside linebackers on the line of scrimmage. So that's where this next 34 days is really critical, and it's not just the player's toughness, it's the coach's toughness. It's the coach's mental toughness and their ability to understand, okay, what do we have and what do we need to do to be successful? Because we can't think that we're just going to be smarter than every other coach. We got this scheme defensively and we got this scheme offensively that's going to correct, and mask everything. No, the reality is still it's about players. But it does give you some flexibility. It does give you versatility. I do believe that there's some flexibility in the guys that we got to give us the ability to play that. Now we've got to see what really truly ends up being the best 11. And then that's when you got to study the league as well. And I think, that's a big part of it too. Spring is about developing yourself. Spring is about, working on what it is that you do, not focusing on what others do. But if you don't know where you're going to need some of the things that you're going to need to do, then you really can't focus on yourself. So you got to be smart about it. So there's a unique balance, and I think that's probably the greatest challenge for all of our coaches starting Saturday.
Zach in the back.
Luke, you mentioned your strength coach a couple times. We've seen the videos of Brady kind of juicing the guys up. Can you maybe describe the energy he brings every day and, how the guys have responded?
Well, I was asked a question yesterday by a coach here, just talking to her for the first time, and she's like, so what is your guys' thing? And I'm like, what do you mean? What is our, as you're coming in, what is your, what are you guys? And I'm like, what kind of question is that? When, offensively, what? And what she was asking me was, what is somewhat of your trait? Who are you? And I would say we are a high energy group team in everything we do. That whole mantra of, the way you do anything is the way you do everything is the way we live. If you don't have energy, if you don't have passion for what you're doing, then it's not worth doing. And there's no such thing as laid back. I tell some of the guys, when I first met them, I tell the recruits, look, if you're wanting a laid back coach and you want to chill at times, and that's not me. This is probably not going to be the best place for you because there's no chill in me. I mean, I have to make myself kind of do some of those things. And that's just, just me as in general. And so I think if you ask us who we are a high energy. We are a passionate group, no matter what it is that we're doing. And it's evident when you walk in that weight room. And I think it's not all about how you train. And do you guys do bench? Do you do squat? Do you do clean? No, it's about the energy that what you train with. And that's all contagious. So Coach Brady, all those guys in there, that's who they are. I told you from the get-go, I lived with those guys for the first 2 weeks here, and I had to move out. I'm like, I can't. When I go home, there is that part of that. It's not chill, but I want to go to bed. I want to be able to recharge. I'm not 35 years old, 34 years old to be able to hang with those guys outside of after 10 o'clock. So that's who they are. That's what they are. And I think more than anything, what they do in there has a big part of it, but it's how they do it that is so critical to the development, of who we want to be and how we want to play.
Doug?
Luke, certainly, I think, which is pretty typical of any time there's a coaching change, there's a lot of new faces in the locker room. But in terms of continuity, how important is it for the guys that have been here in the past under Coach Leonard, under Coach Chris, to kind of show their new teammates what being a University of Wisconsin football player is all about?
I think it's critical. And I think it's a two-way street. It's the same thing that, the reason why I wanted to be here that first month is, yeah, you can think what it's all about from the outside looking in, and then you get in there and you really get a feel for what it really is all about. And someone asked me last week, being home, I said, okay, hey, I'm a new coach. What's the one suggestion you could give me? And I'd say win the first month. How do you win the first month? You go in that place and you find out what's really special there, because there's special things everywhere. And then you got to ID those things, and then you got to make sure you can continue to embrace those things, try to enhance them in the ways that you feel like is important. But don't just go in there and think that you need to change everything up, and this is who I am and what we're all about. And that's the unique thing I thought from being here in that first month is, that core nucleus of guys, that culture, that environment that has been here and they are a part of is special. And I told those guys that, look, we don't want to change. I want you guys to be who you've been, and when new guys walk in here, you need to show them the way. And there's things that we got to be able to continue to do better, but I think that's the ability for new guys walking in and understanding that as well. And that's what I've been probably as impressed with those newer guys walking in the door. It's easy for freshmen. You come in, you keep your mouth shut, and you go about your business. That's what you tell them. Look, you got two eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. Like, use these, shut that, and let's go. Older guys walking in, a Tanner Mordecai who's got 1 year, like, they want to insert themselves, but they also got to understand, like, I'm walking into a special place. I need to be just like the coach, get a good vision for what is really special here, embrace those things, and then continue to grow with it.
We got time for one more. Go roll.
Luke, I don't know how much you.
We'll have 2 more. Overriding him.
Press conference.
Luke, I don't know how you mentioned honeymoon phase. I don't know how much you kind of notice or pay attention to at all, the kind of the outside attention, the outside noise you guys are getting from the fan base, just the public in general. Just what's your response to that? Do you embrace it? Do you kind of welcome that? Yeah.
I love it. I mean, anything that is good for our guys and our players and creates energy, I love. Yeah, but sometimes there's things out there that they'll be negative, and we'll use them in a very positive way. I mean, like, there are doubters, there are this, there are that. So all those things, as long as it's excitement, as long as it draws attention to them, they get to see, it's like we're trying to put some of those stressors and those things in the mix to see how guys will handle them and respond to them. And I think those are all great things. If there's not energy out there, there's not excitement about it, then you got to worry, And then people ask, well, how do you handle expectations? There's nothing greater than having expectations. Let's be honest. I mean, the internal pressure, the things that are put upon yourself, you get to find out who you are. And it's much better, than the other way. I know that. And so we love it. I love it. I don't get into it. It's not like I go out searching it. Believe me, I could avoid it at all possibilities. But I think about what's good for our program, what's good for our guys, and what keeps them, energetic, keeps them motivated. When they see those things, they love it. I'm not the social media guy, but all those videos and things that they put out, it's important for us to do, for many different reasons, recruiting, former players, but also just to continue to keep the energy of the program going in all directions.
Luke, you've got 2 former head coaches on your staff, and Coach Hayes and Coach Mitchell. Like, what advantages or kind of perspectives does that give you as a head coach, having other men on your staff that have been in that position as well?
Yeah. Well, they can chuckle a little bit when all of a sudden they see me having to leave and go to do something that they kind of are excited about not having to do anymore. Coach Mitch, we're just getting to know each other. It's one of those guys I don't know as well, but we'll have many more opportunities to kind of, ask him questions, bounce things off. Obviously, Coach Haynes and I have known each other for a long time. Been through it together on both sides. He's been a head coach, even when he was a head coach, bouncing things off of him from those things. So they give you some different perspective. They understand a lot of times where you're coming from, and it's nice to have them in those rooms as, you leave, because, there's things that happen and, things you put pressure on and then walk out. And then I think they've got a better understanding and grasp as to why things are done that way and why they need to be done that way. So I think it does give those guys within your staff, some perspective, because we all know at times the head guy says some things or does some things or mandates some things and then walks out, and I'm sure there's like, what in the hell is going on? And it's nice to know that there's guys in there that are like, dude, this is a challenge. This is, we've been there. Believe me, this is a part of it. And so I think for the staff, I think it's a good thing. And then eventually for me, not having a bunch of other buddies that you can call on the phone that have been head coaches and things like that, it'll give me some opportunities to even sit down one-on-one and kind of, I say let go, but, get some suggestions on different things.